This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.
Welcome to What's News Dunedin, brought to you by Casa Valencia, the radio show that spawned from the 23,000 plus strong local Ōtepoti Dunedin What's News Dunedin Facebook group. The group has been putting the social back in the social media since 2020 with respectful adult debate and a sense of humour. I'm your host Richard Knights. On today's show we talk to our wonderful guest Andrew Whiley, ex-DCC councillor, who'll be telling us a bit more about themselves and what they do, as well as helping us to look back at the posts that have generated the most interactions over the past 7 days on the What's News Dunedin Facebook group. Those posts this week are the DCC adopting this year's annual plan and locking in an 8.9 rates increase, down from the budgeted 10.5 increase that they had indicated. An item on 7 Sharp this week about the legal responsibility if your dog hurts a cat on your property and who's responsible for the vet bill. And the entitlement to entitlements if you're an MP. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Good to have you here. Now, before we get started, we have our regular pun of the week. So we have a Pun Day Monday post on the group. You may have seen it. We just get people to bring their best dad jokes, and ultimately the one with the most laugh reacts gets brought on the show on Friday. So we see if it comes off the page into the spoken word, and whether it's still funny or not. Now, the winner this week was actually a joke that we've had before. So I've had to go to the second place one, which means Max Reed is again the person whose joke I'm reading out, because Max has got a pretty good track record on the show of he's puntastic, so he gets his jokes. So it would have been beaten by someone else, but they'd used the same pun. So this pun of the week is: there's a fine line between a numerator and a denominator. Only a fraction of people know that.
That's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad.
And you've got to know your maths
as
well for that to even work out, because the numerator is the number on the top of and the denominator is the number on the bottom of the fraction, fine line between the two, and that's fractions. So, and I think it was Andrew Perkins was the person who got that one this week. But thanks for the joke. We if you're a maths geek, you're probably giggling your socks off right now, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Let's move on.
So we also have our 3 pop questions. So these are my questions I ask all my guests, and we'll start with our first one, which is: when you have a cream tea, you have a scone, you have jam, you have cream, what goes on the scone first, the jam or the cream?
Jam.
Perfect. It doesn't get any more difficult than that. But some people get that question wrong, and then we have a very long discussion about why they've got it wrong. But science does not support jam.
How do you put jam on top of cream?
Well, exactly. But you'd be surprised at how many people actually do, mate, to be completely fair. Jared Hodson, friend of the show, does it bar backwards. I got no idea. He's a lovely bloke, but at the same time...
He lived West Harbour,
Well, there you go, West Harbour. Enough said. All right. But it's the West Country that do it the right way. It's right down in Cornwall that do it. Yeah, so anyway. Now, that's the only question on my show you can get wrong. So we're 1 for 1, so we're sorted at the moment. So... next question is: who is your favourite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle?
Oh, God, that's wrecking the brain. Let's go Leonardo.
Perfect. There's no wrong answers with the Turtles. They're all Renaissance painters: Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael. Yeah. So, and I didn't realise they were. I just thought they were cool names when I was a kid. But it's like there's method in the madness when you finally when you get to an age you kind of go, oh yeah, that's a good point actually. I'm not sure where Master Splinter comes from. I'm fairly certain there is no painter called Master Splinter, but that's all right itself. Now the third one's a thinker. Okay, so have a little think about this one. Would you rather let a spider climb all over you, or let a snake slither across you?
Spider.
Spider? Not a fan of snakes?
God, no.
No? See, for me, this one, I don't care. I'm happy with snakes.
No.
Snakes or spiders.
No.
I've got no problem. If it was a mouse, I'd be screaming from the rooftops.
Oh, mouse, fine. No.
See, me and mice, with mortal enemies. I cannot stand mice and rats. They're literally the thing that scared the most. Like, alligators, no, I'd fight an alligator. Like, mouse, no. My wife has to deal with those.
No. Spider, mice, no problem. Snake. Oh God, no.
No. See, I like both of those. So I thought that's quite an easy one. So that's the hard stuff out of the way, mate.
Okay,
the rest of the stuff is just like is easy from this point forward. Now, let's talk about the 3 topics of the week. So the first one, it was actually quite prudent timing, to be completely fair, considering you were obviously you are an ex-DCC councillor up to the last election in October 2025, and you'd done was it 3 terms before? 4 terms before
12 years.
Yep. 12 years. So you're more than familiar with this process that has just come and passed. Now, a few months ago, they came out with the draft annual plan with draft budgets, which basically is the opportunity for people to look at that and submit on that and kind of go, actually, no, I don't like that bit. I don't like that bit. You're trying to take something out, or you're trying to put something in, and the opportunity to actually to tweak that process in order to get to something that represents how you feel. Like, I'm just talking from a personal point of view, like what matches what you feel, but also what matches your budget as well. So you can kind of go, well, we're starting at 10.5. If we put a whole load of stuff in and don't take anything out, we're going to end up at 12.5. But if we take some stuff out, we might still end up at 10.5. If we don't put anything in and take a whole load of stuff out, then we could end up at 5.5. So there's lots of ways of kind of putting those levers in the background, and because there's the actual amount of work and budgets and line items in that is huge as well for people who are not familiar with it. So now that's a couple of months ago, and then we get to the point today where they've done that process, they've had those submissions from public, and then you've got the situation where now you're sitting down and kind of going, right, based on the feedback that we've had and the things that we've also done as councillors to put our stamp on the process, where are we ending up? And we ended up with, at the beginning of the day, 8.8%. And through some motions that were brought by various different councillors, which is again part of the process, we ended up at 8.9. So we ended up putting a little bit extra in based on, and then, but obviously from that 10.5, there'd been a whole load of stuff that had been sort of taken out in the process. But we had a whole load of other stuff that people were trying to do on the day, which got Cherry Lucas, our deputy mayor, reasonably uptight about. I don't know if you watched. Did you watch?
No. I've actually had a detox. And something that's not a bad thing to do. But I kind of watched it and fast forward at the end of the day because I was working all day, and so I kind of caught up with it later on. But Cherry was apoplectic about the fact that there was a whole heap of people that were then trying to do that I want to get rid of stuff process, literally on the fly without the chance to have a proper discussion and then seem quite perturbed that hadn't happened. What's your thoughts on that? We started off at 10.5, right? So we were obviously better off than we were. Some of us would love to see it would be at 2.5, but of course that means there's a lot of things that we kick the can down the road with regards to very important maintenance and infrastructure work. What's your? I mean, obviously, you'd have been through this process like 12 times because it's annual plan stuff, right? Maybe you've got some insight that I don't have. So there's a number of things in that. First off, is that when you look at the 8.9%, all right, you've got to first realise that 1% increase in rates is going to generate $2.4 million.
Yep.
So all up, 8.9%. Say let's keep something numbers simple. Let's call it 10%. That would have created that creates an extra $24 million.
Yeah.
When you put that in the context of everything happening across council, the budgets, $24 million doesn't go a long way.
No.
So to me, it's immaterial what you increase it by, but you have to increase rates by X percentage to cover things off. So 8.9%, yeah, I can live with that. But again, it's a case of also what the companies are going to bring back in, how much money that's going to contribute. I disagree with some of the things that I saw that went through. For example, I lived through council times where Dave Cole kept rates low. Mm. When you keep rates low, you actually hamper what happens, or you actually have to have the big jumps at some point.
Yes.
So one thing that I would have been adamant about is, for example, social housing. You do not increase social housing rent because you're going to have to increase it by double next time.
Right.
Or even more, because you're always playing catch up. And so when you say, okay, well, if they could have easily just said, let's make it 3%. We totally respect what's going on, but actually every cost relating to social housing has gone up 3%, if not dramatically more. But to hold it, you're actually having to pay the piper at some point. You're going to have upkeep, things like that. The other part being is actually a lot of the investment through rates and through what council expenditure is going to be. There was over $200 million in infrastructure. Now, a lot of that's associated with Three Waters.
Yep.
That has to be done. There's no way the council can stop doing that. And
This was my argument over the last election campaign in October and again this time round with the by-election. When I look back on the numbers, I think the 215, 216 long-term plan or annual plan and long-term plan, we were putting in $40 million into infrastructure and we were increasing rates by 4%. Now, if you talk to me and say, look, we're going to increase rates by 8.9%, but we're going to spend over $200 million in infrastructure, or we're going to increase rates by 3.5%, and we're only going to put $40 million into infrastructure, I tell you what, I will support $200 million in infrastructure spend every day of the week.
Yeah.
Because that's investing in the nitty-gritty, the foundations, the fundamentals, whatever you want to say, of the city. It's about water coming through your taps. It's about good roads. It's about the totally good infrastructure.
Yeah.
Not only that, it also creates a lot of jobs and a lot of money running through the city.
Yes.
That's where I think we have run into problems, is that you then have all these little niggly arguments about, oh, this group got $50,000, or this group got this, or this group got that.
That's a nice to have, but it's
but again, it actually all makes up key ingredients of the city.
Yeah.
The part that really drives me nuts, and as you said, I've done 12 of these, whether it's annual plan or long-term plans. You've got to remember, all but one councillor, because Joe Gaylor got elected, at the last minute as such, has been part of this process since they were elected.
Yeah.
So these discussions about annual plan, rates increases, things like that, have taken place since, say, November 1st. Any adjustments, any changes, anything they want to debate or put in or subtract, whatever, they have had months to be worked that through, create the argument, work with their colleagues.
Get the proper costings.
Correct, and put the motions to the table accordingly.
Yeah.
My first question is, why wasn't this presented to the other councillors? Why wasn't this presented to the table back in February? Looking at some of the parties that are involved in some of these debates, they probably did and didn't like the answer. So what have they done? They've kept going back. We want this done. We want this done. They don't like the answer, so they keep pushing
it.
That's bad governance.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, at some point, governance is taking responsibility for decision. You don't always get what you want,
no,
but you have to support the decision.
Yeah.
I'm really frustrated when I see bad governance.
Yeah.
And I see people want to articulate this stuff at the last minute.
It is. The ODT called it political grandstanding, and it
totally,
it is, isn't it?
Yep.
It ultimately comes back to that, right? Whether you firmly believe you're in the right or not, it's still you've been outvoted by your peers, in the previous discussions, and now you're just using that last minute, that headline grabbing, I'm standing up and banging the desk kind of thing as a political tool. So
first off, one thing I would love to know, and again, I've still got people I talk to that are councillors and some staff. I know that there was a meeting that took place back in early March where all councillors it was in March sometime, all councillors had to bring what they were going to cut and what they were going to advocate for.
Yeah.
And that was presented to the table. I hear that there was crickets around the table, and the discussion that they expected to take 4 or 5 hours only went for 2 hours.
Right. Because no one brought anything.
Nobody was prepared to listen to other arguments. Nobody wanted to present. Everybody was okay with status quo. That's where you actually have to go through the process, talk about what are you fighting for, what are you advocating for, why, what are the benefits, and how are you going to convince your colleagues that this needs to be done?
Because that's where the grunt work takes place, isn't it?
Totally. The work was done pre-April 1.
Yeah.
Anything that's then taken to be signed off in the draft annual plan has already been articulated, that you've already had those battles behind the scenes. So if you know what the rates are going to be, and I remember in the early days, 2, 214, 215, that through that term 215 to 214, 15, and even into 16, we would get Richard Thompson, who was Chair of Finance at the time, would come in, and he would turn around and say, "Oh, by the way, the company's now going to give us a dividend of this. I've been able to get some more money out of them, and we're going to move on that basis. So actually, the percentage we're going to be able to drop."
Right.
And that's how they used some of the dividends to offset some of the increases back then. And that used to be really bad through probably 2005 or 2007 especially, talking to the councillors that were around the table at that time. You know, the last minute they would always go, "Oh, by the way, we've just got another $20 million or we've got $15 million from the company, so we can slash that increase to this."
Yeah.
And it made the councillors look really good.
Yes.
Bad economics, bad fiscal management.
Yeah.
Put the cards on the table early, let everybody debate it, let everybody know what's going on. But you know what? The number one thing you have to do? You actually have to turn up to the meetings.
Yes.
You have to turn up to the workshops. You have to turn up to the meetings. I would love to see an attendance record.
Yeah, so would I. I've advocated for that for a long time, because I do know that there are some councillors that are absent beyond beyond what any of us would believe to be reasonable.
Correct, totally.
At those
and sometimes they're the loudest
and,
voices at these points.
Oh, they can be. They absolutely can be. But there's a little bit that's happened this time round, because they've managed to go back and get an extra $3 million out of Aurora, right? So they again, the question was whether that's sustainable, and DCHL, Dunedin City Holdings Limited, who look after all our council-owned companies, to try and get away from all these acronyms that we have said that it is a sustainable $3 million. So there'll be that $3 million doesn't drop out next year. We still have that $3 million on top of everything else that they're giving, which is great. But it's one of those. It's a robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of scenario. And if it is not fiscally responsible, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's a dangerous game to play, because it allows us to keep rates low. Artificially, we just seen this happen with Waitaki. In the Waitaki district, they were debating 19, 27, or 42%, and they've settled on somewhere 22%, which is not even going to pay the debt and get them back into a level position. But they don't. But they couldn't put it to 40. That's just because they've kept it so artificially low. Now, One of the things, you've got everyone, all these councillors going and going, "I want to keep rates low, I want to keep rates." That's what everyone's wish is, right? But there are financial constraints that are thrown down by central government. Look at rest his soul, Jules Radich, right? Jules campaigned on low rates, keep it down. And then he was the person that actually oversaw one of the biggest, if not the biggest, rates increase of 17.5%. In recent times, and that wasn't his fault. That was because Three Waters was canned one way, and then suddenly that responsibility for that infrastructure ended up firmly back at our desk. So you've been planning all along for Labor to do this Three Waters thing, and whether you agree with that or not doesn't matter. So you've done all this planning, and then suddenly, like, Jules gets elected, and then it's a change of regime, change of leadership. And then suddenly he's now having, and he stood up and he actually advocated for it. He said that, because our hands are tied. And people need to understand that. And I don't think enough people do. I don't think enough people actually, there's far too much emotion in choosing and anger in choosing a candidate. And we've just seen that with the latest by-election. As opposed to actually people understanding some of these conversations that you and I are having right now. And I want to move on from it, unfortunately, because we're going to run out of time.
No, just one quick thing.
Yeah.
If you notice, Waitaki, change of mayor, after quite a long tenure, all of a sudden the cap comes off.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm interested to see what's going to happen in Clutha and what their rate increase is.
Yeah, because same again.
Brian Cadogan, I believe, artificially kept their rates low.
Well, a lot of councils did, didn't they? A lot of councils did.
And this same thing happened when Dave Cole finished. All of a sudden, things changed.
We're playing catch-up. Playing catch-up. I want to talk about the article on 7 Sharp. I don't know if you caught the conversation on What's News. Turns out that cats are deemed property, which is, if you tell that to my cat, they'll tell me very much that I'm the property and the cats are actually the owners. But it was an interesting conversation for two reasons. Because there was an article on 7 Sharp, someone's cat had gone into someone else's backyard. They got a dog. That dog attacks the cat in their own backyard, and the dog owner is now responsible for the bill, for the vet's bill, for the injury to the cat, because cats are deemed as property, and dogs are legislated in under the Animal Control Act, whereas cats aren't. So there's a couple of arguments there. It makes the conversation: do you have to? Should we be legislating cats under the animal control? And I wouldn't have a problem with that with my cats. I got no problem. But the other interesting thing for me was there's the legal opinion. You've been told this is the law. Dogs attack a cat, even in the dog's backyard, and the dog owner was responsible. And the response on Facebook was, that's not right. And you kind of going, no, that's the law. And yet people still wanted to argue that wasn't right. And it just threw that whole Facebook armchair expert thing back at me that I see so many times. Like, I couldn't believe that so many people were saying that was wrong. It was actually, the law is the law. Whether you agree with the law, argue that you don't agree with the law, but people were actually arguing that that wasn't true. And you're kind of going, now I'm struggling. Did you see the conversation?
Yeah, I saw the story and I picked up a little bit of the conversation on your Facebook page. Two things that stood out to me, and I'm a dog owner, so we've got two schnauzers, and if they saw a cat in the garden, they would basically be so excited, but at the same time wouldn't really know what to do. So two schnauzers, biggest babies there are.
Yeah.
But they're also quite loud. Two things that I looked at. First one was that I was shocked about the property aspect, but yet then I was surprised that the contents insurance or property insurance covered the vet bill.
Right.
That staggered me. I would never have thought about going to look at my insurance policy unless I had pet insurance.
Yeah.
To see that the coverage of the damage to my cat
was actually covered by your own
property
insurance because they're counted as property.
Yeah. So that was the first thing that I'm going, there's no way this is covered. And then as you listen to the guy on 7 Sharp, you go, shit, okay. The second thing is, okay, now if I put up signs on my fence, no cats allowed, what would happen then?
I don't think cats can read.
I know, but I'm warning with the owners or whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, danger, no cats allowed, dogs on property.
Yeah.
Would that basically then negate the fact, because I've given the owner the warning that actually if a cat jumped the fence, they could be in danger?
It's a tough one, eh? And my wife made the point, and you're right. Your schnauzers would look at a cat and go, "It's like someone to play with. I've got no idea what I'm doing." Right?
Yeah.
I'm a dog owner and a cat owner and a chicken owner and a fish owner, and I've probably got a giraffe somewhere on the property, but I haven't actually managed to find them. And I had a Rottweiler. Right, so my last puppy was a Rottweiler. He was 50 kgs of muscle. He was huge. He could put his head down on a dining room table. He was scared to death of my cats.
Yeah, he was a sook. Yeah.
He was absolute sook. He was scared to death of my cats. Frightened to death of the chickens. The chickens, he would run away from a chicken before he'd even think about. But my wife made the point, if you actually have a dog that would actually be violent towards another animal, that seems to me to be even more of a concern than whether there's a cat on your property or not. You know what I'm saying? Because I have that worry. Your schnauzers would be absolutely fine around people, right? Yeah. That's fine, or babies or whatever. I knew my Rottweiler would literally, if a 2-month-old poked him in the eye, he'd just roll over and cry, right? But if a dog will tear a cat apart, what would they do to a person? One of my friends on Facebook yesterday has put up the fact that he got attacked by 2 dogs in the Northern Cemetery. Yep. He had his leg punctured. He's been wounded by a dog. I would never want a dog like that.
No, actually, I hadn't considered it on that perspective.
Well, neither had I until my wife made the point. I mean, I'll tell you, my wife makes a lot of good points, and I have to say that live on air, and I'm not under duress. But that was the thing. I made the point. It was actually, you're right. Actually, because if a cat came onto my property, I wouldn't have to worry about. I've got more fear of my cats damaging the other cat because of that kind of rivalry thing than I've got than I would have had of my dog, who's passed away now. But I would have had of my dog worrying that cat, and I wouldn't want a dog that would be like that at all. You know?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think that was sort of flummoxed everybody, that story this week.
It did, absolutely. Yep. So if you're out there and your dog hurts a cat that's on your property, even if it's not your cat, you are legally liable for the vet's bill. And that is crazy. I think
but you're covered by insurance.
But you're covered by insurance. I do think that's wrong. I think cats should also be brought under the I understand that they're free roaming, but I think they do need to be brought under some kind of bylaw, legal legislation as well. And I've got cats. I've got no problem with being neutered, desexed, microchipped. Like if I could keep them inside, I would. But I've got outside cats, but they don't roam very far. But I firmly believe that that's what we should. Now, last one, and we'll do this one quickly. The entitlement to entitlements. If you're an MP, because it's been in this recently. I think it's Louise Upston was there taking money away from some part of the accommodation supplement process, meanwhile claiming $1,000 a week to live and have a house in Wellington. Right. So my view on this, very quickly, it costs money to live away, right? It costs money to be in Wellington. As an MP, you are expected to be in Wellington for certain amounts of time. I've got no issues whatsoever with an MP from outside of Wellington having their accommodation amount covered in order for them to do their job, right? Because if they've got to go up there, the flights will be covered. They're away from home. I've done that on business. If I'm going away on business, they pick up my room tab. They pick up I've got no problem with that. What I have a problem with is if the situation is this, right? I own a house in Wellington as well as owning my other house, and I have paid for that house fully. So I'm not paying a mortgage on that house anymore. And I have a problem with people then claiming the allowance, right? Because that is just taking money that you do not physically need. If you're paying rent, if you're renting a flat and you're paying rent, I've got no problem with that. But again, it should be what is covering the rent, not just I'm taking $1,000. Does that make sense? Let's say your rent is $850, then you should be, in my mind, you should be claiming $850 for that rent because you are paying rent. There is a cost to you for being in Wellington for your job. If it's $1,000, then you should be claiming $1,000. Does that? How do you feel on that? Because it's one of those ones where people go, well, they're entitled to it, and you go, well, I think you're entitled to it to a level to cover certain circumstances, but I don't think you're just carte blanche entitled to it because you've got a second house. You're already in a situation where you're better off than most, and you're getting paid a salary that's a lot higher than most people anyway.
Well, there's a number of factors in that that I can see. First off, the Remuneration Authority does all this, so it's outside of MPs' hands.
Yes,
and it's all MPs that are covered.
Of every flavour, absolutely.
Yeah, and what I find interesting is that it was very silent from some of the MPs that are very usually vocal on things about the money or where money goes on that basis. I struggle with some of the aspects, like I think the former Mayor of Wellington, Andy... whatever his name is, Andy somebody. He has a house in Wellington. He's an MP for ACT. He's now living in the Wairarapa, and as a former home is what he's getting remuneration for.
Right.
And he's collecting that because he's now living in the Wairarapa. And I agree with you. Actually, it should be in proportion of where you live, what you're doing, and where that money goes.
Yeah.
So, for example, Rachel Brooking or Ingrid Leary or any of the MPs from down this way or, from Northland or wherever, what they have to do, the amount of time they have to spend on a plane travelling and everything else, I'm hoping is covered in this in some way in their remuneration, versus somebody who is, say, the MP for Wanganui or Manawatu, that's 2-hour drive and they're easily in Wellington.
Yeah.
So there's all those factors, I think, that come into it because the amount of times you're on the plane. And again, I can honestly say I've probably been asked 3 or 4 times to run for National in Dunedin, and I've said no every time. I said I love Dunedin. I want to sleep in my own bed.
Want to be in Dunedin.
And I look at the people that have done that. I know that the cost of being an MP on your lives and your family is huge.
Yeah,
So-
and I've got no problem with people say, if there's a cost to them for being out of town, then I believe that cost should be covered. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. It's when they're not. It's like Christopher Luxon, right? When he's mortgage free on a house and he was trying to claim the allowance.
Yep.
That's wrong, and he
Yep.
gave it back, right? But if you hadn't been caught, would you have given it back? I don't know.
Well,
I mean, but
yeah.
but that's the point. And I know you're a national
Yep.
voter. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fine. But I've got the same view, whether it be Willie Jackson or it be Kieran McNulty, because these guys are also claiming that
Correct.
allowance, right? So let's not say that it's just one flavour of MP.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. And if they are claiming it on houses that they own and there's no mortgage to be paid, I don't think they should be claiming it either, because actually, like, that is money that they are getting that's just lining their pocket. That is just they're just feathering the nest with that, and that's wrong. What I would be interested in, and what upset me the most, I think, about this was that when asked, Christopher Luxon wasn't willing to look into making changes. And I think any leader should be. I don't care about the flavour. It just happens that he's the leader right
Correct.
now.
Yep.
I think every leader should look at it and go, actually, we want to be transparent. We want to be absolutely clear. We want to talk about the fact that actually what we're doing is, yes, it's a tough job. We're remunerated appropriately for that tough job, but we're not taking the mickey, right? We're not actually there doing those things, right? And that's the struggle. I genuinely think that it doesn't matter who was in charge, that person in charge should be open at least to, can we have a fairer system?
They also can't be seen to be guiding or leading the remuneration authority
Of course
in a certain
not.
way. But I think this is where government can work way more effectively if there's a lot more consensus across all parties
Yeah.
on decisions for the country.
I think I would love to see cross-party support. Like, the health should not be a political football.
no.
It shouldn't,
Roads, rail,
should not be a political
No.
football. Like, they genuinely, there should be an agreement across every single party, consensus that actually you build good hospitals, you give great medical care, you look after those people, and actually it doesn't matter whether you're green, blue, yellow, white, black, purple, whatever colour we're gonna put that to one side. I mean, look at our hospital. Like, look at the way it's been kicked around as a political football. And that's from Labour as much as it is from
Correct.
National,
Yep.
it is from ACT, and it is from bloody
Yep.
the Green Party and God knows what else. And they can all claim the moral high ground, but none of them deserve to be there in my view. And I'm reasonably apolitical,
Yep.
whilst left leaning, right?
Yep.
There's no need for it. If you want your public to believe in your political system, there's certain things that should be beyond politics, in my mind. The health and well-being of our nation has to be one of them.
Well, in 2017, we had National and Labour on a knife edge of winning, and Winston got to play Kingmaker.
Yeah.
And we sat in limbo, for 8 weeks or 9 weeks?
Yeah.
Had a real good discussion with Michael Woodhouse then. And I said to Michael, why don't National and Labour form the coalition
Yeah.
and actually get shit done for the country?
Yeah.
And he goes, you know what, in theory that would be a great idea. He says, but unfortunately, he says, the unions guide the Labour Party too much.
Right.
So you can't, for example, as I understand it, you can't be a Labour MP unless the unions have ticked you off. Okay, and that whole structure.
Right.
The part being is actually, I think at some point we have to push pause in this country and say, actually, let's get a coalition that's actually can work on a 20 to 30, 50-year roadmap of what's important.
Yeah.
Now, how is an 80-year-old dictating to the rest of the country on what retirement age should be?
Yeah. Well, that to me is not how MMP is supposed to work. It's it puts the power to the minority. You see the way that National have been pulled from pillar to post in this last 3 years, right? And you're a National supporter, but I look at it and kind of go like, the tail is wagging the dog, and that's not how MMP was designed. What we actually want is more parties actually in the mix and more consensus, not this kind of like left-right fight, and then someone in the middle that's kind of going, depending on what way the wind's blowing and whether it's politically viable for me, I'm going to choose one or the other. Like the fact that the Winston First can actually flip-flop. I call it Winston First because it is, rather than whatever. Well, that's New Zealand First, isn't it? Winston First. I've been saying it for so long. It's like it's second nature. The fact they can flip-flop between the two and be kingmaker is not good for our political system.
But the New Zealand political system very rarely has 3 years and you're out. It's usually you do
two terms,
three terms, and you swap.
Yeah.
Okay, we know that's how it's going to work. Okay, so for a one-term government is very rare.
Yeah,
it's usually a two, and this is why I'm also a huge supporter of a 4-year election cycle.
Yeah,
but I think that's where we actually can be way more productive and an effective policy, and you know what, not letting, Winston or a couple others dictate what takes place, how it should take place.
Yeah.
But actually saying there needs to be a bigger focus on what's important for the country as a whole.
Agreed.
What does New Zealand look like in 2060?
Yeah.
And what's our roadmap to get there?
Yeah. And how do we all get there together?
Correct. And what do we need to make that up? And how are we going to have stronger healthcare in 2040, 2050, 2060, stronger retirement, all that sort of stuff.
Perfect. I want to talk about you in a second. But before we do, I'm going to get a quick word from our wonderful sponsor.
Dunedin, meet your new favourite bakery. Casa Valencia at 53 Musselburgh Rise is serving up freshly baked bread, pastries and gorgeous cakes. And if you haven't tried the ube donut yet, you are seriously missing out. Our signature purple yam donut and purple yam drink are the must-try combos your taste buds have been waiting for. Pair it all with a hot or cold drink, grab a cake for someone special and make your day a little sweeter. Casa Valencia, 53 Musselburgh Rise, Dunedin. Open Monday to Saturday, 9am to 5pm. See you there.
Have you had any food from Casa Valencia?
Oh, God, it's good. I was just thinking, that's mean playing this. I haven't had lunch yet.
Always makes me hungry. But I was there just before I came here.
Funny, that's just, 3 doors down?
Three doors down. And literally, like, as I was there, I get my lunch there like early because I'm coming on the show. And they're just lovely people. And the food there is just fantastic. So, yeah, they've been there 3 years now. It's like, I couldn't believe it's been that long. You know, it's just gone by. But everything that comes out there is just, it's cooked with love. Yep. And that makes a difference. Let's talk about you, Andrew.
Yep.
All right, so you and I know each other from way back. We've locked horns as well over the past. But perhaps give us a little bit of the Andrew Whiley story, if that makes sense, and kind of what got you to City Council for 12 years. And say we've met across the traps, and you know we've stood in a campaign, and we've stood in a very grubby campaign just gone. I think that's probably the only way to describe it. So maybe give us the sort of 5-minute Cliff Notes version of Andrew Whiley.
Born and raised in Wellington. Actually left school, my 6 subject school C, and took up an apprenticeship as a golf professional at Miramar Golf Club, and that was my love. That was my passion, golf. Still is. And from there, I was the golf pro at Te Amutu for a couple of years. Went to California to try and play for 3 years, and then that didn't work out. It wasn't good enough. And then I ended up in Canada for 3 years. Had a great time at that time.
Can you play golf in the snow in Canada?
No, you'd have to. I had to find another job and stuff, and so it made it interesting. But when you're through spring, summer, autumn, you play a lot of golf. And it was a good season. I really enjoyed it. Came back to New Zealand for 3 years. I was the pro at Wanganui Golf Club, and that really enjoyed that. And then ended up with an opportunity to go back to Canada. So I went to Vancouver in '96 and spent 7 years there. Met my wife at that time. 2 kids later, and we looked at what was going on in Vancouver. Couldn't afford to buy a house. The prices had gotten away on us between when we were looking to buy a house and when we finally got around to it. And my wife said, look, you find a job in New Zealand and we'll go there. And so I ended up getting the job over the phone at Chisholm, and started at Chisholm in April 2003, and I was the golf pro at Chisholm for 12 years, so 2003 to 2015. Through that period, John Wilson Drive issue popped up, And I got really frustrated with council because council had never consulted the golf club or I on John Wilson Drive and what it was about. And so you had councillors talking about an issue, and they were taking their notes from what was in their reports. Very few councillors that had really actually gone and spent any time on John Wilson Drive, looked at it, understood what was going on, where here I was, the golf pro at Chisholm, and I spent a lot of time out teaching golf and out on the course, things like that, and I would see what was happening on John Wilson Drive every day. I saw what took place, I saw the issues, I understood what was happening with the Tahuna West water pipe, etc. And I got really annoyed with council, and I articulated that and presented to council on those issues, and basically they blocked me out or didn't really want to engage. They went through, we had the partial closure, and then a number of issues popped up after that, and so in 2010 I thought, bugger this, I'm going to run for council and I'm going to give it a go. Unfortunately at that point, it was the first of the STVs.
Right.
And everybody's name was in alphabetical order. So being W did not help.
No.
Bill Ackland got in a landslide.
Yeah.
Having, Andrew Whiley and people not understanding STV. So I think I finished I think there might have been 40 of us type of thing, and I must have finished 36 or something like that. I was way down the list.
Yeah.
And people tell me, oh yeah, no, I went down the list and I voted for 12, so I gave you 12. And I'm going, well, was I in your top 3? Oh yeah, you're in my top 3.
But you got 12.
I got 12.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
People just figured that's what they did. So that's why Bill Ackland got all the ones.
Yeah.
And everybody else. And so he's like,
Does Bill know that? Has anyone told him?
no, well, but since then I tell you what, when I said we're not doing alphabeticalised, I've always voted against alphabeticalised lists on council. So anyway, so that's how I missed out there, and then ran in 2013. And I probably was one of the first to really run for the mayoralty and council.
Yeah.
And get on. And so Aaron and I both ran in 2010, and we both finished down the track, and then we both got on in 2013.
Yeah.
And that was quite an exciting moment. And then so I did my 4 terms. Was disappointed in October to miss out.
What would you put that down to? Obviously, I ran 2022, 2025, by-election 2026. I've got progressively stronger as more people have recognised who I am and what I'm about. But it's interesting for me to understand what as someone that was in, because there was a few that were in that got voted out.
5.
Yeah. So that was Carmen Houlihan.
Yep.
Yourself, Bill Ackland,
Kevin Gilbert. Jim O'Malley. Yeah. So what would you put, like, from your point of view, when you've analysed it, and I'm sure you have done because I've done the same thing, what would you put that down to? Attack politics wins.
Right.
The more you attack, the more you get cut through.
Yeah.
The more you basically, whether it's the media or whether it's the people watching you on social media, groups of people resonate with what you attack with.
Right.
When you've been at the table, you can't attack because you're a lot of stuff that whether you support it or not.
Those people are attacking it or seeing as you as part of the problem.
Correct. And so you're also then the audience comes and attacks you.
Yeah.
Well, you're part of the problem. You've been there. You just sat there and did nothing.
Yeah.
For 12 years, rah. Actually, well, no, I believe I was in the top third of the hardest working councillors at council.
Yeah.
And I actually did do quite a lot.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I didn't run to the ODT every time I felt like I did something.
Yes.
To get my name in lights, or I didn't basically make any outrageous claims that created a lot of media attention.
Yeah.
So the part that I look at is that radical politics, loud voices, aggressive nature, whatever, gets attention.
Yeah.
And creates an audience or creates a vortex of information, whether it's right information or misinformation.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that. And I wasn't, I remember coming off the 2016 mayoral campaign where So you get through a campaign, and Dave Cole got re-elected mayor, and we all got called in, and basically the Monday after the election, shake hands, you know what, and I had to turn around and say to Dave, sorry, I said those things on the campaign trail. That was on the campaign trail. You know what, I really enjoyed working with you last term and look forward to this term. And I said to myself, I'm not doing that again.
Right.
I'm not going to attack colleagues.
Yeah.
I'll attack some of the issues,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to attack the person.
Yeah.
And that type of thing. And I think that's the part that I really struggle with, is the attack politics. The other thing, if you go back to the October campaign, it's all about money.
Hugely.
And basically people said to me, oh, I didn't, you didn't campaign hard enough. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. And I go, actually, if I had have thrown, and I think I spent $8,000 or so.
Yeah.
I said, if I had spent $20,000, I don't think I would have got any more votes, because people were spending 30, 40, 50, 100,000, 250, I think Andrew Sims and his group spent.
Yeah.
Trying to get cut through that.
Yeah.
And then with STV, you start working out, where do your numbers come from? And people told me straight up, oh, we really liked what Andrew Sims had to say, or the Future Dunedin had to say, and so we voted them, and then we voted for you.
Right.
And a lot of people just said, oh, we just thought you were given, and so we ranked you down. And it's like, well, thanks, but anyway, that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? You needed to be there. We can't believe you're not there.
Yeah.
And then when I look at this past by-election, and I look at the same sort of thing, I go, actually, you know what? Attack politics isn't for me. I'm not going, because I know you attack the table.
Yeah.
You then have to sit with those colleagues, which will now be your colleagues,
Yeah.
and go, oh, I didn't mean some of those comments.
Yeah.
How do you build consensus? How do you build relationships?
Yeah.
How do you make the city stronger?
Agreed.
And I think this is the problem we're going to see. And I'm a big fan of Sophie and Cherry. But I tell you what, it's going to be a challenging table, because there's also personalities around that table that are really peeved off with Benedict taking all their airtime or taking their media time,
Yeah.
because they are not seen as relevant. So you're now seeing them try and jump up and down.
Yeah, is that
Yeah.
attack? No, I can't do attack politics.
No.
It just doesn't work for me to actually to criticise people for the person. Like, I'm quite happy to talk policy, but I can't,
Yep.
and I don't think I ever would. Interestingly, the average, considering how much money was spent, the average amount of money to get elected last time, 2025, was over $14,000 a
Yep.
person.
Yep.
That's the average, and we know that Andrew Sims spent 45, and Benedict John spent 44. And that's just crazy. And John Chambers spent $1,000. Good on him. That's the way, in my mind, that's the way I get elected. I've spent less than $1,000 every time I run, because I don't believe that's the buying a seat, in inverted commas, buying a seat at the table is the way to be elected.
Yeah, and I think, again, people want to believe what they want to believe.
Yeah.
And at what point you can shout as much as you want about certain issues and about money and the rates and everything else. And if they're latching on to the 20% of what they're hearing, and they think that's the most important thing, then we've got a problem. You know what? For example, I didn't hear one person on the campaign trail say to me, we need to spend less on capital infrastructure.
No.
But they don't want to pay for it.
Nice.
Okay, so that's the problem. And,
Yep.
and again, in 2015-16, we spent $40 million in infrastructure, and the rates went up 3.8%. Or are we going to spend, $200 million plus, and the rates go up 10%? I'm sorry, I'm going to always support the 10% rates increase
Yep.
if we're producing $200 million in capital infrastructure. People don't want to hear that, though. That's not a sexy...
It's not sexy attack, is it? I've got a couple of questions.
Yep.
I want to get another advert in from our, because we're running out of time, I told you. Quick advert in from our sponsor again.
Dunedin, meet your new favourite bakery. Casa Valencia at 53 Musselburgh Rise is serving up freshly baked bread, pastries and gorgeous cakes. And if you haven't tried the ube donut yet, you are seriously missing out. Our signature purple yam donut and purple yam drink are the must-try combos your taste buds have been waiting for. Pair it all with a hot or cold drink, grab a cake for someone special and make your day a little sweeter. Casa Valencia, 53 Musselburgh Rise, Dunedin. Open Monday to Saturday, 9am to 5pm. See you there.
So I've got a couple of questions. We're going to run out of time. We've got 5 minutes. So first question is well, not question so much. One thing we've seen this week is that you can be shouty on the campaign trail, and the first thing you do is turn around and do the opposite when you're sat around the table. And that's, I think we've seen that with Councillor Gaylor this week. We've been talking about South Dunedin, everything was South Dunedin. And then when the opportunity was there to put more money, they've tried to stop everything that's going on in South Dunedin. And they've come up with some fairly wishy-washy kind of reasons for doing that in my mind when I sat there and watched the council. But it just goes to show that you can say whatever you want in the attack. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to deliver. I mean, Benedict Zong's a fine example of all the things that he's promised before he got elected. But has he delivered anything? And that's the difference. But I just wonder whether that will cut through to next time round when they run.
There's not one councillor, I believe, at the table right now who does not support in investing in infrastructure in South Dunedin.
Agreed.
And the importance of it.
Exactly.
The problem being is the amount of energy and time for capital infrastructure. It takes 5 to 7 years to do that. Okay? Personally, if I had the keys to do this, I can tell you what I would have done a long time ago, and I've raised it. I know other councillors have raised it. I know Mayor Sophie's raised it. Why don't they go and offer to buy out the key properties, and there's about 5 or 6 of them, maybe 8 at max, get valuations done, offer to buy out those residents, say, we will buy you out at market value, knowing that, yes, there is infrastructure issues, and we take those barriers off the table because we know we're going to fix them, and away we go. They retain the value of the houses on the books. They can rent them out, and again, anybody who's in that position can know that they're actually okay because they're renting the house or whatever. Even the people who sell the house could end up renting it back off the council, because when that work is done, Surrey Street's values are going to be strong.
Yeah.
There is an issue. And the thing is, not one councillor at the table will acknowledge there is no issue.
Yeah. I just found it very interesting that both Councillor Lund and Gaylor only want to look at one way of doing it, which is this Opus report that came to council back in whenever. We've had 9 years since then where situation has actually changed. Capacity has changed. The actual number of houses in the area has changed. So whilst the Opus, I get the Opus report will be relevant, it's not the be-all and end-all of a situation that's a decade later, right?
Well, it's the one that I lobbied hard, and probably my best claim to fame, if I say, what did I achieve at council? I made sure that the Tahuna wastewater pipe is open next time there's a rain event, because I advocated and shouted loudly after the 2015 flood, Tahuna wastewater pipe wasn't open.
Yeah.
That blocked up the rest of the infrastructure along with Portobello pumping station.
Yeah.
That created a lot of the flood.
Yeah.
Right? That's the first thing that I've got a lot of confidence in South Dunedin and its future, because we now realise we can open the pipe and let the water go out.
Yeah.
Doesn't help. But everything, and the Surrey Street, there is a bottleneck.
Yeah.
It's going to be worked on. Unfortunately, timing's not perfect for everybody.
It never is.
Yep.
So my last question probably of the show will be for you. What's next for you? Would you stand again? I know you've said...
No, I'm done. I'm out. No more
I've
campaigns.
seen that reported. But I mean, but genuinely, whilst again, you and I have a lot of times in the past, and we've not necessarily agreed on everything, but I can't thank you enough for putting yourself in that place, because I know how difficult it is, right? I know how difficult it is having holding an opinion on this. It can be difficult, from an abuse point of view. I've been there. I've got the T-shirt, right? But I can't thank you enough for putting yourself in that position, because it takes a toll. So I totally get it. So what's next for Andrew Whiley?
Well, what I didn't say is I broke my ankle in November.
Right.
That made me stop and reflect on a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And worked out, what do I want to do next? Probably going to do my real estate papers.
Cool.
Not sure what I'll do with them in that sense. I'm still really passionate about golf and golf tourism. I've got a book coming out at the end of the year on golf tourism, the best golf courses of New Zealand. So I've been just finishing that up at the moment. Yeah, right now looking at different opportunities. I've had a few people ring me, touch base with me, have coffee with me and say, hey, what about this, what about that? So who knows? But I'm looking forward to it.
Still in Dunedin?
Yes, yeah. No,
Yep.
my wife and I love Dunedin. If it's not Dunedin, it'll be central, it'll be golf related and central.
Fair enough. Andrew, I told you we'd run out of time, mate. It's been fantastic talking to you. Welcome back on the show any time, but you just sit there while I just roll things out.
Perfect.
Thank you. Well, that's a wrap for this week. Thank you for tuning in. I've been Richard Knights, and you've all been wonderful. Remember, if you're looking for a robust, respectful adult debate about all things local and further afield, and a welcoming online community that doesn't take itself too seriously, come and find What's News Dunedin on Facebook and join our fun. On next week's show, we're talking to Rinad Tamimi between olive trees and cold seas. Look forward to seeing you next Friday at 12 on OAR FM. And if you wanted to listen to the show again or simply share it with your friends, you can find the podcast at oar.org.nz or even on Spotify, YouTube or your favourite podcast provider.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.